Welcome, everyone, to the First Name Basis podcast, where we chat with industry leaders and TribalScale employees about what's going on in the news today, and most importantly, what's being relevant in tech. And today, I'm really happy to have our co-founder here, Helen Kontozopoulos, and I hope I'm saying it right.
Close enough.
All right. How do you say it? How do you say your last name?
Kontozopoulos.
Kontozopoulos.
There
I
you
should
go.
know better. I'm being a pure Malacca here, not getting it.
Oh my.
So Helen, I asked you to come on our podcast because there's this big wave, and the topic of AI keeps coming up over and over and over as we are chatting with our clients about their digital transformation journeys and how they're going to be relevant in the digital space post-COVID. And they all seem to have some sort of way of using the magic words artificial intelligence, but then they're lost and they don't know what they're doing. So I really wanted to have you come on and talk to us a little bit about that. But why don't you give us, before we dive deep into AI, why don't you give us a little bit about your background? Because I find it fascinating of what you've done and how you started the organization that you're currently co-founding.
Yeah, totally. So I'm the co-founder and chief growth officer of ODAIA.ai, and it's a startup based out of Toronto, now global with COVID. It's pretty good. My other co-founders in Switzerland, and one of them got stuck in Greece, so it is global. It's a global company, and we do customer journey analytics using machine learning to understand who the customer is and predict what they might do. This all came about from my work as an adjunct professor at the University of Toronto at the Department of Computer Science. And that's where I met my co-founder, Pericles Andrissos, who was working on the machine learning and AI technologies and research around process mining, customer journeys, and thinking about how people journey through our services and products. And he gave this to me and he goes, look, what do you think about this? Can you help me commercialize? Think there's a business here. And at the time, I was the co-founder and director of the Department of Computer Science Innovation Lab, which is one of the incubators at UT. And teams that came out of that lab and we assisted were Ross Intelligence, Blue Jay Legal. We helped Winterlight Labs, healthcare, so lots of hypercare. So a lot of teams that were working on a lot of emerging technologies like AI, a lot of bots, a lot of conversational bots at the beginning, medical, wearables, So when he came to me, he's like, what do you think? And he's like reading these papers, and I go, oh my gosh, I think you automated my work. And my past work, going back to my first degree, was in anthropology, marketing, understanding humans. I learned how to code, the year many of my students were born in 97, 98.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, don't say anything, it's so old. And what I realized was if I understood what people were doing in the back end, if I can understand how people were using things, I was an anthropologist online in a way. I was watching people, and then I can change the front, and I would just change it, and I would make experiences better. It was not called CX back then.
Right.
Yeah, but it was a part-time job, and I realized this is pretty cool, but I never thought I was that tech person. I'm just an anthropology major, minoring in philosophy and marketing. And when I finally got to my master's and I did marketing there, I was like, this tech comes up and I'm asked to build stuff too, right?
Sure.
So mobile and product design and development. And I realized that these were all tools that made me better. Maybe one, make me money. And two, it opened worlds for me that I would never thought could open. I made a critical change in my life in around 2011, 2012, when I realized I didn't want to just be the user of the technology, the person who's going to, build the next mobile app or build a website or just build or design. I really wanted to be more upstream. And that's how I got to the University of Toronto to eventually get to that point of reading that paper.
Sure.
I wanted to be right right in the thick of things, you know, like.
And that must have been a great time at U of T, like, you know,
Yeah.
Geoffrey Hinton coming out of there, and like just the AI revolution that was taking place at the University of Toronto.
Yeah, he was just a guy you would go into a lecture and they'd have like a faculty meeting and he would just stand on the side. You know, you're like, oh, okay, there's just a dude standing there, you know, and there's Geoffrey Hinton, right? Like, you realize then, you know, I was influenced and I had met Marvin Minsky just very briefly. Steve Mann, I'd worked on him coming to the course and what I was working on. I realized I was surrounded by the people that opened up my eyes of what is possible at a very theoretical way. But then here's Geoffrey Hinton and his group, and the chair of the department who hired me, Sven Dickinson, who's also, you know, totally machine learning genius. He's leading Samsung research for AI. I go, wow, okay, we're taking from a very theoretical to now practical. And I'm the practical person. Like, I'm the one who is not that theoretical person. Like, I'm like, okay, kids, how do we build a product now that sells? That was my course. You know, that was my lab, you know. So yeah, it was, this has been my weird journey.
Which is, you know, we always talk about this in academia. You get so heavily focused on research, you forget to do the practical things. Like, how are you actually going to make this work? What problem is it actually solving? Right? There becomes a big disconnect.
Yeah, there's a huge disconnect. It's never user first thinking, and I think at TribalScale, you guys are user first. You're design thinking. You're you know, you're building products that people could really use. It was always like, how do we? Which is good in the sense that it's good to be very theoretical because you can't expand the research. You can't expand you can't push the limits of the technology. Not have to think about the user, not think about design, not think about the problem. Just think about how do we push the limits. But then taking it into, you know, who's going to use this at a practical like level? Like, yeah, it was weird because I would get in there and be like, who's going to use this? And they were like, banks, you know? Which we did help. Like, you know, like there was some like Shield is a AI like security, fully homomorphic encryption, like, you know, and I'm like, yeah, thanks, you know, but so many other industries can use this now, right? Encrypting information, you know, using, it's very interesting. And I am now, like, you know, being in this startup, it's, you know, having a very heavily product amazing engineering team. I'm very focused. My other co-founder is Philip Polides, who's like, you know, Philip for many years, very product focused, getting something out there. And then I have these two academic profs, like a PhD and a professor, who are very, you know, so the balance is very difficult.
So let's talk about how you guys came together. What was the big aha moment for you guys to come over and say, hey, we're going to create an organization that's actually going to solve these problems?
Yeah, it was when Perry showed me those papers and read it. I thought he wanted to come into my lab. Like, I thought he just wanted to, you know, become another team that came into the lab, an academic team that we can eventually tech transfer and get them out of the university. They could go to Y Combinator or some other, you know, incubator that was around, you know, Toronto and of course international. And I realized he was really meaning me to enter the team. Like, you know, it was winter 2017. It was like late 2017. And he's like, no, I want you to be the business person. Like, I need you. And I'm like, yeah, but I've got the lab and teaching. I don't know, but I think I was ready. I think I was too jealous. I was jealous of my students. I was jealous of people out there building and doing stuff. And I go, you know what? I will swear, fuck it. Like, I'm going to do this. This is amazing. This is a great time. And especially that what they were building is what I did, that I had to do manually. I had to do this work manually. And now you're saying machine learning is going to automate what I used to have to do, which is look at multiple data sets and then understand who the user is. From real data. And I did that manually. I did that from ethnography. I did that with data science. I did that with statistics. I had to do that professionally. So now it's like, oh, the joke I used to tell everybody that AI is going to take over our jobs, they Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing it.
Yeah,
You're creating
laughing
that.
at me.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, and then I think, to bring the whole team together, I looked at my team and I said, okay, I've got, like, I'm very grassroots. I'm always like, this really prototype kind of person, always building and hustling around and doing cool stuff. I need someone who's done industry, who's had a startup, who's, sold something, who's got that experience. And I knew Philip from me putting on an event around IoT and machine learning in 2015. And he was my keynote. Yeah, so he was my keynote. When he was at Marvell Semiconductor leading the whole IoT team out in the Valley.
Right.
I called him up and like, would you like to be an advisor?
Right.
And he read all the papers, and within a weekend, he's like, can I help more? Can I be more?
You're onto something big here. I want it.
Yeah. And then that's where me and Perry and Guile, who's who's the fourth person, who's our PhD, who's not a PhD anymore. He graduated. Now he's a Doctor Bernard. Doctor, yes.
Doctor.
God, it'd be great to have that as your name. Like, hello, doctor. But you have to have a cool last name though, like something evil, like Dr. Evil or something. Bernard is.
Or it could be the opposite. It could be like Dr. Love.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, you got to have a good balance of evil and dark and stuff. So we kind of all came together, and we realized, and I learned quite quickly from seeing other teams, you have to be equal. It has to be equal founders, working together. And that's how we kind of came together. And we're now a team of 10 engineers. And we're plodding away, like we're just kind of like COVIDing away as we're working. But let's talk a little around. Yeah.
Let's chat a little bit about the business economics here. Like, who are some of your clients? How are you helping them? And then let's get into what changed after. March,
totally. Yeah.
After that crazy weekend, I remember March 13th was the big day for me. But
yeah, mine was 2 weeks before that. I flew in from California, and I just landed and went, oh, I have to social
distance, yeah.
Social what? I have to self-isolate? What is that? And then it became normal, part of our vocabulary. We are in two industries, which is very similar to what we're doing. We help sales and marketing teams figure out who their customer is and understand how to reach them, why they should reach them, who they are, at a very data-driven way, right? So sales and marketing teams across industries have the same problem. Who is the customer? How are they journeying through the services? How could we sell better? When should we sell them? Can we predict who to sell to? Things like that. So the two industries that found who are the most open to us and were like, let's do this, let's start working on a project, was pharmaceutical. So life science companies that were selling drugs, so salespeople going out into the field and selling to health practitioners.
Sure.
And wanting to understand more of how to sell better and predict who they might sell next to. So next best auction, next best audience, next best, action, segmentation, usual stuff that you do, but they would do a lot of manual. There was a lot of Excel sheets, there's CRM, again, multiple data sets, having Excel. And then we have another partnership, which is with Dentsu Aegis, the huge, large, large advertising, Mad Men, kind of, I even did a talk called Mad Men versus Math Men. So I was like, oh my gosh, we're the math men, or math women, math people, math hero. I don't know, like, give another word instead of men, doesn't matter. They were like, we're doing the same thing. We want to, create better marketing campaigns. We want to segment. We want to do what you're doing. So those are the two industries we have found a really sweet spot. So Dentsu is a partner with us, and they go to their clients.
Sure.
And
which one of their clients are using more of it? Is it the telcos? I know when I have my predictive analytics, what we called it back in 2004 background, where I found it was like a lot of the telcos and the financial banks were the ones who were like, hey, even within my own customer database, am I getting the right share of wallet? Is there cross-sell, upsell opportunities? Yeah. How could I profile my top 10% of my customers? And find others who just look just like them within my own database at first? Yeah. And then how could you help me find others who look like my top 10%? So who are the ones really, like, from the agency standpoint, really jumping on board?
Yeah, you would think it was the telcos and the banks and stuff, but it really comes down to e-commerce, like brands that are selling. They have multiple brands.
Sure.
You know,
and they're going direct to consumer?
Direct to consumer is a big thing for them. Transition to direct to consumer. Large firms that are that have to have multiple brands that would sell, say, through any store, like like say like a large like would sell through someone else, now is selling direct to consumer. So they were transitioning before, saying, how do we segment better? How do we look at how we understand our customers? So the same issues, right? Same, how do we sell more? Thinking about our omni-channel strategy, thinking about our, how do we sell in the store? How do we sell online? How does that work? And then how do we create better ads? How do we sell better ads and then target? So that was kind of the things that really we're solving now.
So this goes right to like what you used to say to your students, right? Like, how are you going to make something that's going to be super impactful? So at the end of the day, if I'm the marketer or the salesperson, I'm going to have to say, okay, how am I getting my consumer acquisition costs lower? And how am I raising my total cost of ownership of each one of my customers?
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of saying, exactly like what I would say to my students. It's like, how are we going to create a process, the customer experience process, that can do that? And if you don't understand the journey of how they go through the processes that you've created these processes in your businesses, that's millions of interactions and thousands of touch points, millions of touch points. And this is done manually by marketing and sales teams to understand how they're going to get that uplift, or who's the one who's wanting to churn, what is leading up to that, what journey led up to churn. Being able to find the little areas in those journeys, in those thousands of journeys that make up those segments. Humans can't do that. So that's where machine learning and in machine learning plus methodologies around processes, like process mining, right? Sure. That's what, like, beyond the aggregate, that's the thing. You cannot just do this with Google Analytics. You need something with steroids.
Right. To actually map out that journey and figure out that journey. So I guess is a real life use case that, hey, I'm going through my funnel of not only seeing the ad, then engaging with the ad, and now I'm interested in a product, and then finding, hey, maybe my certain segment needs to see a video to start to increase my chance of purchase, versus someone else who maybe you just want to take right to the purchase group. Right?
And who makes up that, right? Which products are going, which brands or products are they going into their baskets, right? And then it's understanding the segment who has that type of, type of basket that led to that, right? So it's not just like a UI or UX problem. It's more kind of a behavior that led to, the clustering of different products and people who like these things.
And I guess more importantly, figuring out why people are churning out. Or what
totally. It could be, there could be something in the process, and there could be also something in the price. It could be, but that's where the human comes in though. There's you can't have machine learning without the context. You have the data that comes through. We show you the data, we're like, the actions are taken by you as an agency. The action to say, what is the context, to understand, that's where the human in the loop comes in. And then you need to balance that, like madmen versus mathmen kind of thing. It's not, it's like the balance of context, understanding, and really driving happy journeys versus, AI will do it. It's kind of like, let's not go on that idea that it's going to just, turnkey, this is what we're going to.
I just procured this AI solution and we're all good now.
We're good. I'm going to get a huge report. I'm going to see the data live, and then I'll be like, okay, this is telling me everything. And it's not. There are so many so many variables and human touch that needs to.
Very
Your
quick.
customer's complex. It's not an easy solution.
So how did things change? How did things change after COVID? Like, more and more demand for digital goes up, and now every company's scrambling to figure out, well, how am I going to be relevant? Especially for those companies transitioning to e-commerce. I'm not walking in a store. So what are they? How did that change?
Yeah, it was. One, it was like, okay, what do we do now? I mean, it's great being software. So I love software companies. I always told my students, you're good, stick within software. But I do have a comment about wearables. And I do have a comment about thinking about, like hardware.
Okay.
But saying that though, like, I think being in software and also being a type of team, that we always wanted to be a software company, right? So we wanted to create something that could be a product that could you plug into your services, your layer, you go in, you use us, and then you go to your client. So we knew we could kind of get the hit of COVID, like COVID could hit us, but we could be very manageable. Like, again, it's another methodology of AI that you can use in your processes, in your. So we knew we could figure that out. When our customers came back, especially pharma, the majority of their sales were always face-to-face, walking into the clinic, talking, video conferencing, big conferences, lots of conferences, right? Let's get HPCs, that's like, health practitioners into the room, and let's sell to them. You don't have that now. So you're saying the salespeople and these sales managers don't have that face-to-face anymore. So they turned to us and went, we're really now forced to take on projects, like forced digital transformation, forcing of projects we were having on the back burner. Now we have to work with you because we don't know what our customers are doing. Because before it was always a call, or I would talk to you like this, and I would kind of understand what was going on.
Or even to get on the radar. I mean, we're talking healthcare professionals are extremely busy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, are they opening?
If you don't have the person knocking on the door, you very quickly could lose your business to out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, exactly. And so they were like, we need this now, because what is our next best action that does not include face-to-face, or does not include maybe an email, or maybe it's something else. So it might be an email, but it might be something else. We might have to change the way we do sales. Now our e-commerce clients, like the brands that were coming, were now like, there were a lot of companies that didn't have e-commerce solutions direct to customers. And customers were sitting there going, where do I go get my Godiva like chocolate? You don't understand. I'm having a panic attack. I need Godiva. And you go there and you realize they don't have it. You have to go into a Shoppers, And I think there was a lot of brands that realized they had to go digital, but how do you create a good store? How do you segment, understanding past data? Also that there wasn't they don't have a lot of data. They never had stores from before.
Right.
So if you didn't have a store before, you had no data from before. That means you need a third party, or you need other data sources. And because we have partnerships with others, we have third party data. We can start helping you segment.
Start sourcing the third party data.
Yeah. So we have that. Like, we can get you that third party data and start saying, here's a marketplace with some, segments that you can start right away going after segments that work, the products that will work. You can start setting up a marketplace right away. Right. But you need education of how to target, how to set it up. And of course, that's where great, agencies like yourself and like Dentsu can create those marketplaces for people. And then they just plug us in and they start learning about the data, learning about their customers.
And what they're doing is they're plugging in your product and your product offering, right? And then there's a whole, I guess, the human element of coaching them through, saying, hey, here's what we've seen with the data. Here's actionable steps you need to take. And one of the things what we were chatting about before we started this podcast is that you talked about an automation forcing event, and I want you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So now, I have talked to tons of, teams, like data teams and AI teams, that had to now say, how do we automate things that are high touch? that we can't do now. So there were like projects they couldn't implement. Now they have to implement. How do you move a 200, 300, 500 person organization into their homes? How do you automate that? How do you start doing beyond what we do, right? Beyond what we work on? We found that, like, what you notice is that now there's automation on how we automate our supply chains, and how do we supply, and also how do we even automate our restaurants? How do we start thinking about removing touch points, not physically touch points, but maybe physical touch points, like human touch points, and where the technology is seamless, but that doesn't happen by us taking the time to do it. We had to have a massive health crisis to say, we need more robots. We need more wearables now. We need to understand where people are. So we need the technology like IoT. We need digital twins. We need things that I think were popular in the VC and startup world, and people were implementing them now. Now it was a work from home issue. It's a implementing from our lives issue. It's not just, something that seemed very theoretical, like not theoretical, but, something that happens in another industry. Now it's across industries. So something that you would use in construction sites, social distancing with using wearable technology. Now it's like, how are you going to go back to the office? Well, maybe we can use the same technology, right? So I think that it was like, everyone kind of sat there and going, what do we use? And the organizations that were good at just saying, okay, I think we have a plan, let's huddle, let's, figure out how to use new technologies. Were able to understand their business and automate right away. While other businesses were like kind of flat-footed, they were like, well,
and you still see a lot of businesses that are staying flat-footed, and I get it. They have this harsh reality coming from, I say, the CEO and the CFO down on cutting spending, but they got to loosen up now, right? And they got to start adapting to change. And it's not one of the big conversations we've been having with a lot of our clients, and I'm sure you are also, is it's still not too late. You might be behind the 8 ball, but we can help you. We can start helping you right now, but time is ticking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The more time you're wasting, less time you're not going to get back, and your bottom line is going to reflect it.
Yeah, and this is not going anywhere. Like this is not going away. We're still going to have so many waves, and people have said the waves. How, as a business, will you implement these technologies right away? Like the fast learning curve. Before it was like 8 months of implementation, let's 8 months, and we'll do testing for 2, and we'll do data, this, and and I remember those conversations. Before the startup, like before it was like, how do we start implementing AI? You remember that was the year of 2018, 2017 was, how are we going to implement AI into our organization?
We still hear that.
Yeah. So, and I think it's like,
well, do you know what we hear? We've tried to implement AI. I don't think we necessarily did a good job at it. So we're scratching that strategy, and let's start all over again.
Oh my God.
Good. At least they've tried something. Those organizations are a lot better to talk to, because they've tried. They got a will there.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly, look, it's a perfect time for us. It's perfect time for great startups to come in. It's great for agencies to get in to say, look, we've done this before with multiple clients.
Right.
Instead of you like forcing something that's hard, you got to think about how to implement and maybe work with your teams instead of your data teams and AI teams in the past, thinking that you and I were threats to their teams.
Right.
Right? It was always like, oh, we have a data team, we have an AI team. And you come back and you're telling me 2 years later that they failed, or they didn't do well, or it didn't work out well in the organizations, right?
It's so true. We get the same thing. We get the same thing from our side. I mean, luckily for us, if it's a consumer-facing application, we got an app store that shows you what your users are actually telling you on how well your internal team did. But one of the things that really starts resonating with a lot of our customers, and I'm sure yours, is, hey, our team is really good, except they haven't just been there and done that before, where we've built over 400 products. We've seen it all. I always say, learn from my scars, or I've gotten all my teeth kicked in and it's time for us to protect your smile. Learn from all the mistakes we've made in the past, and actually bring some speed and agility to your team, where it becomes more of a transformation engagement for your people to learn from us.
And also, you can't bring in, the type of research and the type of work we've created and implemented wasn't something that happened over the last, it's been last year. It's been 6 years of research. It's been, implementation. And, sometimes, if there's a type of expertise, you can just plug and play in, and then you really create an infrastructure and architecture of data around our solution and other solutions.
Right.
Why wouldn't you move the dial when it comes to your organization? So
Absolutely.
Those conversations were a little bit harder, I would say, a few months ago. But now it's like, we don't have time. Like our team is like putting up fires everywhere. We need to be able to implement something right now.
Sure. So what do you think happens next? What's going to be the next shift for organizations?
Yeah,
put your futurist hat on.
Oh wow!
What happens starting tomorrow?
I see the future,
Good.
and it's interesting. I'm really, I'm pretty excited to see how we get past the AI hype, and we get into really showing what we can do. That's kind of so I think beyond the AI technologies, AI robots in hospitals, cleaning, the AI conversational tools that kids can use to learn because they're home alone, right? Well, alone,
Yeah.
They're technically alone, seniors, we need to step up. I think some places will really step up and find solutions. The governments that are most open, the governments that are using data really intelligently, who are really trying to implement better ways and policies to use data to fuel that, the innovation that is possible. I think Toronto is like perfect, aside that there's a lot of bumps.
Sure.
But I think between where we're at across Canada, I'm always talking to my colleagues in Alberta and also in Vancouver, and I was just talking to one of my friends who's in BC. She's in Halifax, and she goes, "There's so much stuff happening," and I think we need to share more information. So I think there needs to be sharing of data, and sharing of thinking around it. I don't know if it's a future thing. I think the future is good but scary.
What scares you most?
I think human beings scare me.
Okay.
Not how everybody was like, "Oh, AI is scaring us." I'm like, no, man, human beings scare me. I think there needs to be a better way of implementing some type of technology that could help you not be scared so much about what humans do. I think that's I don't know how to answer that question.
No, that's fair. Okay, let's bring this into. So I do this segment on first name basis where I really want our listeners to really get to know you. So I'm going to give you some rapid fire questions, quick answers, either 1, 2 words, or very short sentences.
Okay.
What's your favorite way to spend a weekend?
Gardening.
Really? What do you grow?
Tomatoes, beans, capsicums, chilies. We have lettuce. I'm watching the beans from here.
Don't these raccoons come flying in there and
Oh man, raccoons are fine. It's the skunks that you should be scared of, but I don't go at night. I love gardening. I love it. I realize now.
Wow,
in the past,
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah. I love gardening. And I mean, when it was no COVID, I love martinis. So that's a weekend, just overall, just martinis over a weekend.
Oh, I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. You bring olives.
Yes, yeah, I do.
You bring the olives. All right. What was the last show you binge watched?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was just watching. I watched the whole COVID time. I watched RuPaul Drag Race,
Okay.
like all of it.
Okay.
Like I feel like I'm being transformed somehow inside in my mind. Mama Ru is taking care of me.
I'm trying to promote small businesses. So, what is your favorite restaurant that you can't wait to to go back out to and have a meal?
Oh yeah. There was one I ordered from Costa Verde. It's a Portuguese, yummy, like really yummy. It's on Uber Eats. They're on Dufferin, and I just can't get enough. Local business, Portuguese chicken. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. If when you're able to travel again, where do you want to go?
Greece, man.
Greece. Where in Greece?
Corinth. But maybe an island, maybe Santorini or something again, you know.
Awesome.
I know I'm too Greek. I'm just too Greek.
I love I still haven't been to Greece. I've grown up with a lot of Greek friends, but I still haven't been to Greece.
You're always welcome. I have an extra room. You can come and stay, man.
All right, that's it. We'll have martinis the whole time.
No, we're gonna have booty shots on the beach.
We'll do Uzo.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit about. Let's get back to this. Let's chat a little bit about data privacy, and AI in this age of COVID. How are you seeing this play out? Data privacy is coming up more and more and more, and ownership of your own data is coming more and more, and you feed off all the data that is being created.
I know, and well, the thing is, I think it's because I think, you know, when I was teaching, and I still teach like a master's course in technology and entrepreneurship, and I always, for 7 years, I've been teaching, and I always try to integrate ethics. It could be my anthropology degree. It could be because at a practical implementation, you always have to have opt-ins on my mobile apps or, you know, on the website, you know, like you're opting into things. You know, there was a lot of things that were happening that in a product level, you always had to consider. You always had to consider privacy. I don't know. I guess I always had to consider privacy.
I mean, there's a big scare now, right? I mean, I think TikTok is getting like it's Chinese made. You know, whether it's true or not, everyone's saying it's stealing your data. It's stealing your data.
Yeah.
But it's such an addictive app that a lot has massive users, right? And there's definitely a whole ethical play to when you're creating a product. Are you ethically doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And Mark Zuckerberg's obviously always on fire for everything he's done.
Yeah, and everyone getting off Facebook ads and not investing in Instagram and Facebook. And, you know, I have an addiction to Instagram, so, you know, I can't get enough cats. And, you know, like, we always started with privacy by design from the beginning. Like, you know,
okay. What does that mean? What
to me, it was like, how do we make sure when we're ingesting, when we're holding onto the data, when we're creating contracts with our companies, when we're having contracts with our customers, you know, how are we building in an education between, say, in this case, it's client to client, B2B. How do we make sure that we're always thinking about their end customers, you know, and how are we educating our clients about how we're using the data? Or, you know, what do we know about the client? So we always de-identified. We didn't want to know who their customers were. You know,
it also opens up a whole bunch of risk when you're doing that. You're like,
completely.
We can still get to your business objective without that information.
Yeah, and it's also that we put in steps so you can view your data before you ingest it. You know, like steps that were designed to create privacy.
Okay.
And you know, I'm always thinking about Anne Kavukian. I had her as a keynote in 2014 for the conference that I had before on AI and IoT. And I just sat there going, I have to have this person talk about privacy. And in 2014, it was just starting to talk about all the masses of data that we get from IoT and the data we needed for AI.
Sure.
And I think now it's really interesting because we're going to be doing contact testing, symptom tracking. We're going to be doing even like, what is it called? Immunology. You're getting a certificate, right? Like you're getting certified, like, hi, I'm okay, you could see it, you know.
Yeah,
like
there's apps, right, that certain countries
yeah,
are using that you got to show, hey, I got my green
yeah, like
check mark,
I'm
I'm able to
okay,
come in. Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff on this, right? Like this,
Mhm.
and
I joke around and always say, this knows me better than my wife. It knows who I'm
yeah,
talking to, knows where I am, knows my calendar. It knows
exactly.
me. It knows me better than me.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
And for our audio listeners, we're pointing to our iPhones and Android devices.
yeah, yeah. It also knows what I'm shopping more than anything, right?
Right.
And my husband does not know what I'm like impulse shopping.
He just sees
That's
the
a lot.
Christmas presents get dropped off by Canada Post in the morning.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm like hiding boxes back here, you know, presents and clothing and binge shopping. I think we're okay. So we're going to be tracked. We're going to be our symptoms are going to be tracked.
Mhm.
You know, and I did see apps coming out. I did see one that was coming out of the Vector Institute. I used it. You only put your postal code, but you can know a lot about me through my postal code, right?
Of course. Yeah, that's what
I
we
can't
used to
remember.
do. I used to work for a company where just based on your postal code, we had predicted 10,000 different attributes about you.
Yeah, so so
Yeah.
it's like that kind of, you know, knowing a lot of that stuff. Of course, there was a lot of, you know, I trusted the brand. I trusted the Vector. Vector Institute. I trusted that U of D. I trusted the people who built it. You know,
Mhm.
so the trust is again linked to the brand, isn't it?
Sure.
You know, and it goes back to how much the brand is trusted. So when I say Facebook, where's your brand? Like, where's your trust level go, right? And if I said Twitter, if I said, you know, a bank of some sort, like, you know, one of the
Sure.
banks, you know, and I started going on a level of trust, you know, trust is low, trust is high, and I said a name and you'd be like, whoa, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, when there were certain, you know, if a hospital came out with a tracking and I knew it was my hospital or, you know, one of the Toronto hospitals, I feel safe about it. I go, of course
Yeah.
you can have my information because I need to know. And I mean,
And I want to contribute because I trust you with my
exactly,
information to do the
right?
right thing with it. Right.
But I think if we had other parties come in and start asking for more and, you know, how are they buying data and that kind of, I think a little bit, there needs to be more policy on discussion about where that's going. So we're creating health apps. We're doing, you know, telemedicine. We're using a lot, and it's really helped. I take care of my elderly parents. So, you know, being able to go on and have a call with my doctor, you know,
Sure.
and of course blood work to be able to go to 3 or 4 different doctors and that's all shared. I had to sign documents for that,
Sure.
you know, but it made my life easier to be able to take care of my father, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's what is good to share, what is not good to share, and that's like, I don't know. There's a lot of health apps. It's a really hard question, but I like how you asked it because if we're not conscious of the implications,
Mm-hmm.
how do we know when we should step in? When should we ask to be opted in or opted out, you know? And if we don't know that, like, how much information do you want people to know about your kids or about your wife or about your cousin or about
Right.
your colleague, right? So
And
those
yeah,
things,
and I mean,
you know,
third degree separation of information then becomes an issue as well because
yeah.
it may be my wife giving up my information and I
Yeah.
don't.
You'd be like, no, don't say it. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's, you know, you can see that there's a change, that a lot of people are a lot more open to give up their information as long as it's designed to tell them what they're opting in.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side that people don't care. And then there's another side they're like, no, dude, I don't want at all. You can't have any of this. But there's options at least. You can
Right.
give me the option, not just like, I could literally be the person who says no, like I'm going to move into the woods and I'm going to go away.
For sure.
But there's a lot of implications, and you know, people, my future thinking, you know, there's implications when it comes to our health in our businesses and our health in insurance companies and all this information flowing around. What did you buy? You know,
Right.
how are you spending your money?
Right.
Credit apps, I don't know, it could go crazy and you could get very paranoid.
Yeah. But I mean, with rightful reason. And I think I think it's great that there's a lot of companies experimenting right now and figuring it out, but there's definitely going to have to be some sort of standardization. I think that you could have the trusted seal, right? Like we did it with electricity. We know when when I'm buying a gadget, it has, the standard association label on it. It stands for something.
Standard. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Completely. And I think having agencies and us as startups and as, we need to be educators, because we're the ones helping them build products. We're the ones, or our products are being used, that we are as open to that education, to say we have thought that through. We have done that. So I think in our presentations in the beginning, we were like, okay, here's our cybersecurity strategy, here's our privacy strategy, and they're like, what? And I go, yeah, because we're going to talk about it right now. How are you doing it for your organization? And they would just be like, okay, let's talk about, they'd be like, again. But it's a risk that both parties have to take. And if I don't trust that other person, like that other company is doing their job, it may be a project
you don't want to take on.
I have to take on the risk.
Yeah, you're not going to take it on.
Yeah, so I think it's a partnership, and then our partnership and our social contract with our customers and our citizens, right? So conversations like this are good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have knowledge.
This is why I started the podcast, because you and I could have just had this conversation over a call or over a martini, hopefully after the pandemic is over. But I found I have this amazing luxury of it, being able to have these amazing conversations with you and others. And I thought, hey, you know what? Let's put it into a podcast.
Yeah, I know. I love the one with Amr. That's why I watched all of it. Like, what was it, 100? Like, what was it, an hour? And
it was a long one.
What was it, 4 hours? Was it 4 hours?
It was like the Ramayana in Hindi words. It was just super long.
Yeah, I had lunch and dinner and a drink, and I was like, I'll just let them keep on talking, But it was awesome.
It was a great podcast. I learned a lot about him during that podcast, and that was his first, after a very long time, his first public statement interview. Which was really interesting. Helen, I know we're coming up to the top of the hour.
Awesome.
How do people find you? We're going to have listeners listen to this and go, I really need to talk to those smart people over there. How do they get a hold of you?
Smart. Okay. SMRT. Helen is social on my Twitter. Mm-hmm. Helen is social on my Instagram. And always feel free to tweet at me. And the website is www.ODAIA.ai. So ODAIA.ai. Or just find me on Helen is social. ODAIA. Yeah. It's Greek. Of course, we're going to choose one with the most vowels.
Of course, it's Greek.
Why don't we hurt people?
That's awesome, Helen. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been really insightful. First name basis. You could catch it on YouTube, Apple, Google, Instagram, Facebook. Our team puts it out everywhere. So please tune in, and thanks again, Helen, for coming.
Thanks again. Have a great summer, everyone.